former wild rice range and foci of early archaeological rice. From Fuller 2012, archaeologists and botanists have long debated the origins of rice. For many archaeologists who focus on East Asia or Southeast Asia, it has long appeared that rice agriculture began in south-central China, somewhere along the Yangtze River, and spread from there southwards and to northeast towards Korea and Japan. However, archaeologists working in India have argued that their evidence suggests an origin of rice cultivation in the Ganges River Valley by peoples unconnected to those of the Yangtze. The map at right summarized rice origins as part of Fuller's 2012 paper in the journal Rice. For both regions, there are current controversies about how early rice was cultivated and how best to identify when rice was domesticated as opposed to being gathered wild. For example, recently in India, rice grains and early pottery found at the site of Lahiradawa in Uttar Pradesh dating to ca. 6500 BC have been suggested to indicate very early rice cultivation about 4,000 years earlier than has often been assumed for this region. However, other scholars contend that these early rice finds may have been collected from wild stands, and further evidence is needed to prove cultivation or domestication. Similarly, in Chinese archaeology, it has been assumed that early rice finds of ca. 700 BC were cultivated, but previous methods of sample analysis did not establish evidence either for cultivation behaviors or for the physical domestication traits in rice. For example, most studies on early rice in China have been based on recovered archaeological grains, which may not be the most informative on whether or not a plant is domesticated. A recent reassessment suggests that rice grains, especially from Lower Yangtze, show a progressive increase in size over time between 6000 BC and 3500 BC, and that this size increase suggests a domestication process. The same period sees increase in size of rice fan-shaped phytoliths, microscope silica that forms in the rice leaves, which might indicate the same process. If so, then earlier finds at 6000 BC or 7000 BC of small rice grains may be from wild rather than domesticated rice. Others have rebutted, however, that such small grains are also found in much later periods in more northerly regions, like the Yellow River Valley at 3000 to 2500 BC, in Korea after 1000 BC, which archaeologists accept as agricultural and therefore small rice grains could be domesticated. The extent to which interregional variation was at work in the past, since in modern rice, more northerly temperate varieties often have smaller grains, is unknown. Nevertheless, this debate clearly calls into question the usefulness of rice grain measurements by themselves for inferring whether rice was gathered, cultivated, or domesticated. Other rice remains which have used to infer domestication, such as phytoliths including a fan-shaped type from the leaves and a two-peak type from the rice husk, are equally uncertain for determining whether rice was domesticated, but show tendencies towards directional change over time where measurements have been made. Luckily, as discussed below, new method. It is also the case that early Chinese sites with rice finds also produced evidence for quantities of definitely wild foods, such as acorns, Trapa water chestnuts, and another marsh nut of Asia, Euryale ferox. Proponents of a hypothesis of later domestication, including member of the Early Rice Project, contend that this find indicates a predominantly hunter-gatherer fisher lifestyle, and that only with later cultivation and domestication of rice, perhaps closer to 4500 to 4000 BC, did people give up gathering as many nuts and focus on farming rice. This raises the need to consider not just the evidence of rice remains themselves, but to systematically study rice in the relation to an overall picture of plant use reflect in archaeobotanical assemblages. Strong evidence for a slow domestication process, which indeed finished late, were published in Science in 2009. Archaeologists excavating in India discovered rice which could be dated to 4530 BC. However, the first recorded mention originates from China in 2800 BC. The Chinese emperor, Shun Nung, realized the importance of rice to his people, and to honor the grain he established annual rice ceremonies to be held at sowing time, with the emperor scattering the first seeds. Most likely, similar ceremonies took place throughout China with local dignitaries deputizing for the emperor. Nowadays, the Chinese celebrate rice by specifically dedicating one of the days in the New Year festivities to it. Although we cannot identify China, India, or Thailand as being the home of the rice plant, indeed it may have been native to all, it certainly originated in Asia. We are more certain of how rice was introduced to Europe and the Americas, however. For that, we have to thank the traveler, whether explorer, soldier, merchant, or pilgrim, who took with them the seeds of the crops that grew in their home or foreign lands. Not all seeds could be transplanted successfully, however. Great Britain has never been able to cultivate rice due to its unsuitable climatic conditions. The rice plant requires immense quantities of water in its early days, followed by a long and uninterrupted season of hot, dry weather. For this reason, farmers must find ways both to flood the fields and drain the water from them at crucial periods. For this reason, rice fields must be flat, whereas other cereal crops can grow on undulating ground. In the West, parts of America and certain regions of Europe, such as Italy and Spain, have the correct climate and access to water, thereby enabling rice cultivation to thrive. Some historians believe that rice traveled to America in 1694 in a British ship bound for Madagascar. Blown off course into the safe harbor of Charleston, South Carolina, friendly colonists helped the crew repair their ships. To show his gratitude, the ship's captain, James Thurber, presented Henry Woodward with a quantity of rice seed. Some years later, the British unfortunately blotted their copybook in relation to the rice industry they may have initiated. During the American Revolution, they occupied the Charleston area and sent home the entire quantity of harvested rice, failing to leave any seed for the following year's crop. The American rice industry survived this setback and cultivation continued, thanks to President Thomas Jefferson, who broke an Italian law by smuggling rice seed out of Italy during a diplomatic mission in the late 18th century. The rice industry then transplanted itself from the Carolinas to the southern states surrounding the Mississippi Basin. Rice is fundamentally important to various cultures. It is often directly associated with prosperity, and much folklore and legend surrounds the grain. In many cultures and societies, rice is integrated directly into religious belief. In Japan, rice enjoys the patronage of its own god, Inari, and in Indonesia, its own goddess, the Dewi Sri. Rice is also linked to fertility, and for this reason, the custom of throwing rice at newly wedded couples exists. In India, rice is always the first food offered by a new bride to her husband to ensure fertility in the marriage, and children are given rice as their first solid food. And, according to Louisiana folklore, the test of a true Cajun is whether they can calculate the precise quantity of gravy needed to accompany a crop of rice growing in a field. How easy to see that from its early beginnings to the present day, rice continues to play an integral role in sustaining both the world's appetites and cultural traditions. Rice is one of the world's most important crops, feeding almost half its population. Its cultivation requires a large amount of water and a warm climate. More than half of the world's population, especially in Asia, relies on rice as their primary source of food. According to the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, FAO, average rice consumption in recent years was about 85 kilograms per person in Asia and about 6 kilograms in Europe. Rice is a key commercial product in the world economy. In 2022, the value of global rice exports was estimated at more than $20 billion. Rice is a labor-intensive crop. Rice cultivation provides employment and livelihoods for millions of people, especially in Asia. Since it is a staple food for a large part of the world's population, rice is fundamental to global food security. Its production and availability are crucial to preventing hunger and malnutrition. Rice can grow in a variety of environments, from mountains to coastal areas to floodplains. This makes it adaptable to different climatic and geographical areas. In addition to being a staple food, rice is also used in a variety of industrial products, such as cosmetics, paper, chemicals, and alcohols. The choice of the variety of rice to be cultivated is essential. Varieties differ in terms of yield, disease, and pest resistance, adaptability to different soil and climatic conditions, and quality of the grain. Japonica. These rices are short-grained and round. This type of rice is grown in colder climates and at higher altitudes. They are resistant to cold, but have a lower yield than indica varieties. Indica. These rices are long-grained and thin. This type of rice is grown in tropical and subtropical areas, is less resistant to cold but has a higher yield. Energy source. Rice is rich in carbohydrates, which are the main source of energy for the human body. Carbohydrates are broken down into glucose, which is used by cells in the body for energy. Gluten-free. Rice is a naturally gluten-free food, making it a safe choice for people with celiac disease or gluten sensitivity. Low sodium. Rice is naturally low in sodium, making it a good choice for people with high blood pressure or who need to limit their salt intake. Rich in vitamins and minerals, it is a great source of energy. Brown rice is a good source of vitamin B1, thiamine, vitamin B3, niacin, vitamin B6, manganese, magnesium, selenium, and fiber. These nutrients are essential for cellular function, metabolism, and the health of the immune system. Heart health. The effects of brown rice on heart health are innumerable. Brown rice can help lower LDL cholesterol, bad cholesterol, and increase HDL cholesterol, good cholesterol. It is also rich in fiber, which may help reduce the risk of heart disease. Weight management. Brown rice is rich in fiber, which aids satiety and may help to prevent becoming excess weight and obesity. Digestion. Rice has many benefits for digestion and for people with common digestive problems. Rice, wheat, and maize are the three leading food crops in the world. Together, they directly supply more than 50% of all calories consumed by the entire human population. Wheat is the leader in area harvested each year with 214 million hectares, followed by rice with 154 million hectares and maize with 140 million hectares. Human consumption accounts for 85% of total production for rice, compared with 72% for wheat and 19% for maize. Rice provides 21% of global human per capita energy and 15% of per capita protein. Although rice protein ranks high in nutritional quality among cereals, protein content is modest. Rice also provides minerals, vitamins, and fiber, although all constituents except carbohydrates are reduced by milling. The world average consumption of rice in 1999 was 58 kilograms, with the highest intake in some Asian countries. Myanmar has the highest annual consumption at 211 kilograms per person. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more.